Okay, so there is definitely something missing in here. That's up next. Hello everyone, this is Dwayne with Edge of Nowhere Farm, and we're coming to you today. It is June 2020. So what we're talking about today is we're talking about chickens, and more specifically, we're talking about the only way that anything here in the desert survives, and that would be water. So we have had chickens now for going on 3 years, and we've had a few different ways where we water our chickens. Basically, it's the traditional way of doing it. You have some type of water set up for them, and it's 2 to 5 gallons, and you're cleaning it and doing all these other things and ensuring that your chickens have water. Now, one of the things that we've actually been a little reprimanded on, nicely, but reprimanded on, was not having some type of automatic waterer for our chickens. It's been on our to-do list since before we got here, and Lori is really excited for today because she tends to get this duty, and that's cleaning up the waterers to make sure our chickens have clean water. So let's talk about where we're at today and where we're headed and what we're going to be installing today. Okay, this is a traditional waterer that you would typically find anywhere. The advantage to these is they're fairly inexpensive, very easy to move around, so like tractors and things like that where you're having to move them constantly. They do come apart pretty easy, but they're kind of a pain because these plastic ones in particular, because the light penetrates them so well, we get a tremendous amount of algae buildup. If Lori slides in closer, you'll see what 1 week's worth looks like. We clean this out once a week, and really even from day to day, we have to kind of scrape this algae out. It gets pretty nasty, and we obviously want to try to keep clean water in here as best we can. Now, we've also used the stainless steel cans, watering cans. Those work a lot better because light doesn't penetrate into the water, so they don't need to be cleaned quite as often. But the chickens will kick dirt up into here, all kinds of stuff. We do put them up on blocks. We do a lot of things to mitigate that, but either way, it still is a challenge. And then, of course, especially this time of year where we're 110 plus, the chickens get real thirsty, and we have to fill these things every day or two. So it is a little bit of work, and so what we're going to is an automatic chicken waterer. This is where we're headed towards. We have these 50-gallon barrels that are available to us. We've got several of them. We use them for storing feed and a lot of other things here on the farm, but this one's going to be converted into a water barrel for our chickens. So obviously a few things we need to do to this in order to get to the final stage. We've got to build a platform, so this is raised up, which will create our water pressure to go into our lines, because what we're going to be doing is attaching these little cups to some PVC piping and have automatic waterers for these chickens. But I wanted to go over a couple of things that you'll need if you're going to be using a system like this. These cups we have in our Amazon shop, very easy to find on Amazon. There's a couple different designs. This particular one is designed so that the entire cup actually moves and goes up and down. So that's actually what the chickens are going to drink out of. Next thing you're going to need is a barrel. Most important thing here is you want to make sure that you can remove the lid so you can get inside in order to install your fittings that are going to go onto the drum itself. We're going to need some type of fitting, and this particular one is designed specifically for rain barrels, but I like this because it's got a quarter turn ball valve, so it's very easy to disconnect or turn off the water going to the system. And these we do have in our Amazon shop. So this one here is on our Amazon shop, so is this one, so it's easy for you guys to find. Now, in order to get this installed, we're going to need to drill a hole. So that hole needs to be 7/8 of an inch. There's a little description on the back and directions that tell you how to do that. Now, I don't have a 7/8 inch drill bit, but I do have a 3/4 inch drill bit, so you'll see me kind of reaming that out in order to make this fit. Then what we have is a PVC fitting that's going to essentially screw onto this fitting nice and snug, and then we have another fitting that's, by the way, all 1/2 inch. We have another fitting that's going to screw onto that to allow us to get to a slip fitting so we can glue the rest of our pieces. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we have a stable space for this rain barrel. So if you look right over here to my side, you'll see it's a little uneven, and we've got some blocks left over from our garden bed install that we're going to use to lift this rain barrel. So what Lori and I need to do first is we need to level this out, get our bricks placed so we can get this up a little higher. The key there is you want to make sure that it's above the area where the water is going to flow to, so you have a little bit of pressure and water flow down to that lower spot. I did use some ABC and packed it in a little bit just to make sure that this is not going to move and it's nice and stable. Not going to need to use any cement or anything there. Okay, now what we need to do is get this hole drilled. So one of the things that I've seen folks do is I've seen them when they drill these holes into these barrels is they go way too high. So you want to come down here because obviously you want to make sure you can get as much water out of this barrel as possible. Also helps with pressure. You got a lot of water on top of it. So I can see again where that seam goes in and it becomes flat. So I'm going to go ahead and drill my hole right here. So you can see pretty easy there. Now I know that I'm probably going to have to ream that out a bit. There we go. So you want the washer on the flange, I think that's what that's called, the flange side as opposed to the nut side. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in there, and then I get to get into this barrel and connect this with a wrench. Nice and tight, it's not moving at all. Now, of course, before we start attaching any fittings or doing anything like that, I need to make sure that this thing is gonna fill up with water and not leak. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fill it about halfway. So this is the moment of truth as Lori slides in. I do not feel any water. That's a good sign. And the spigot works. And we got some pressure. So we've got it about halfway full of water, got it nice and rinsed out. There was a lot of plastic pieces in there. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put a small hole right at the top here. Just wanna make sure that we don't have any problems with creating a vacuum in here and not allowing water out. The last thing we want is for our chickens to not have water. Super, super simple. But that little tiny hole is just enough. It'll let air in so that it can continue to drain out and not create that vacuum. I try to talk about each one of these fittings as we go. So this particular one here we got from Home Depot, and essentially what it is, it's a 3/4 inch designed to attach to a hose bib, and it does spin. So this will allow us to detach the water barrel for cleaning and things like that. I didn't want to have this be a glued piece. So, and then the other end, of course, is a male threaded 1/2 inch, which I'm going to attach a fitting to here in just a moment. I always tape the threaded fittings. Go ahead and get this attached. So the next fitting I have, again, the rest of these are all 1/2 inch fittings. So I have a female threaded end here and then a slip end here so I can start gluing from here on. And I suppose you could probably use a wrench, but I usually don't. So I figure I'm gonna need to go probably to about yay big. Always better to cut it a little too big than too small. What I need to do is make sure that I can get into one of these links. I've got one of my uprights here, so I need to make sure that I'm past this spot here as I'm running the rest of these waterers down this line. We know we're gonna put 3 cups in. We don't normally have more than about 20 birds or so in here, so 3 drinking at one time is plenty. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and basically just kind of eyeball and space this out. So we wanna get it so that we have 3 girls that can drink about the same time. I don't want this run to be too long because I need to attach it to the fencing. So I'm thinking here is good. Now, what I need to do in order to attach these. So these little guys here, we found these on Amazon. If Lori slides in, I'll kind of show you some detail here. So what they are is they're a 1/2 inch slip on either side. So obviously they work with our 1/2 inch piping. And then this piece here is actually threaded. And I want to say they're 1/8 of an inch standard. This will be female pipe threading. And then these are threaded as well. So they'll basically just screw right into here. So these guys here is what I'm going to use in order to get my spacing now. So now what I need to do is I need to finish this. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna be able to flush the line. So I'm obviously gonna need to extend at the end here. So I've got some 1/2" PVC that is ready to go there, already primed. And what I have are two different types of fittings. So I have a slip fitting 1/2" slip fitting here that actually goes to a male threaded fitting here, and then I have a threaded 1/2" cap. That's going to allow me to take this cap off at the end and completely flush these lines once we get all of this completed. And if we ever wanted to extend this, it wouldn't be very hard for us to tap right in here, and I'm about the right distance to put another cup right where I'm at. Either way, I'm going to go ahead and get this connected so we can get to these cups. These come with a washer and this little nut here, this little wing nut, if you were using this in some other application. But we've got these little guys here that are designed to screw right in. Obviously, I've got glue that's still trying to set, so I'm gonna kind of take it easy on everything here. There we go. So I'm starting to, looks like I've got one more turn and start to see that washer kind of bulge a little bit. All right, that looks pretty good. I think that's gonna work. So let's go ahead and get these other two installed. You can see how these cups look. So now the installation part, the only thing we have left there is we're gonna need to attach this to the fencing here. I'm just gonna grab some tie wire, basically tack it in a couple spots, probably around this post and then down here at the end. But I'm not gonna do that quite yet. What I wanna do, I wanna let this glue set for just a bit. So maybe give it a half an hour to an hour just to make sure I'm nice and sealed. And then we'll come back and test the whole thing, see how it works. So we've given this some time. We got some wood chips that I went and picked up from the wood chip pile to get chipped outside. So that's already there. And we've got all this connected. Used some tie wire basically just to hold this up. Obviously there's not a lot of pressure running through here, so I'm not too concerned about that. But I did want to make sure it kind of stays put and it's going to be nice and snug. But at the same time, I can still actually go ahead and get this cap off, which I'm also able to do. So now I guess a moment of truth. Let's see if this system's actually even gonna work, because we don't know yet. Like that, we are done. So I was a little bit nervous because we hadn't tested it. We ran it for the first time for you guys on camera, and overall it's actually working flawlessly. I don't see any leaks, which is good. We've already had a couple of the hens come over trying to figure out exactly what's going on, and we went ahead and pulled their water. So we're hoping that it's gonna basically make them come over here and test these out. We do know that no matter what, when it comes to chickens, if one of the chickens does it, the rest of them are gonna follow suit. That's just kind of how it works. Really surprised to see how easily this went together, and obviously with a little bit of knowledge as far as connecting some of those PVC parts, which we showed you here today, and then knowing where to get all the parts and pieces, I suppose, is kind of the only thing that really would get in the way. This is the western sky, so this is gonna get beat on pretty hard from the sun here in the evenings. So we are gonna go ahead and paint all of this PVC. This will break down very, very quickly in our sun. So we'll go ahead and paint it probably brown or something so it kind of matches in. We do need to fill up that tank, which gives us about 50 gallons or so to work with, and I think that's gonna last a pretty long time. So just want to thank you for joining us today. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. Questions or comments, leave those in the comment section down below. Instagram and Facebook, we post content there you won't see here on the YouTube channel. And our Amazon shop, I'll leave a link down in the description. That's a free, painless way to help support the channel. If you start with that link, it doesn't matter what you buy, you help to support us here. So just want to thank you for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere, so can you. Hey girl, I know you're curious. You see red. You see red, don't you? Don't go trying to eat any of the glue. That would be weird.